It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
Here comes Samuel left to right, and now in an orbit motion back to the left. Back to pass. Allen wide open to Cook in the left flat, racing to the end zone. And is he in? Yes, he is. The Cook has found the kitchen on a 17-yard touchdown reception. A bunch look on the left side. Coleman by himself on the right with Ramsey. Handoff goes to Cook, and he sails into the end zone for his second touchdown of the game. One receiving, one rushing, and the Bills up 16-7 with 6:25 left in the half. Here's the snap. Handoff goes to Cook, and a work through the middle, through a hole, and into the secondary. 30, 25, 20, 10, 5, flips into the end zone for the touchdown. 49 yards for James Cook, his third touchdown of the game.
Tua out of the shotgun, back to throw, looking, pressure. He's going to run with it at the 8-yard line.
Got it.
Puts his head down and gets bounced down at the 6, and he looks dinged, Joe.
Oh, boy. Jimmy had to run. He wasn't sure, so instead of sliding once he got there, he picked up a couple extra yards. It's a great effort, but, boy, this is not good.
No, it's not.
It was not good to Tagovailoa. His fifth concussion, at least his fifth concussion we know of, knocked out of the game after he threw 3 picks, one of them a pick 6. And you heard James Cook running the ball. It was old school, PK. The Bills, they ran merely 45 plays.
Yeah,
but they ran it more than they threw it.
That was bad news, man. Bad news all
With
around.
Tua, yeah.
I thought the Dolphins, I mean, it's still early, but if he goes out and has to have lingering issues, that's a major blow. I thought the Dolphins would really challenge them. The injury aside, I'm sort of grateful they didn't, because then I didn't have to watch the game. There was another game I had a little interest in that I could focus more attention on.
I did the exact same thing, and I didn't go to school there. But one game was really competitive, and one game was going to be the Bills for a W.
And I appreciate all these years that you've not held a grudge that you didn't get accepted there.
Big games coming up this weekend. What are we all looking forward to? Are the Niners really that good? They really put it on the Jets week 1. They're at Minnesota. They ought to go to 2-0, and that really won't tell us, will it, PK? But another win for the Niners. 2-0, bring it on.
In the NFL, I don't know, because you would say that about just about every game.
Baltimore looked really good in Kansas City. Lost the game by a toe, by an inch. They got the Raiders at home. They ought to get a W here out of the gate. They ought to take care of that. Cincinnati and Kansas City set up as a mega game. Look at those two quarterbacks. Who wouldn't want to see them? We've seen great playoff games between them, but the Bengals look terrible in week 1, losing to the Patriots, like you just said, right? On paper, of course, Cincinnati's going to win that game, and yet they didn't. So now they got KC on the road.
And how many games did the Chiefs lose last year?
I think they lost 6.
Right. So you don't know. That's why I would never bet the NFL.
Sunday night game, the primetime game. Well, we get to see young quarterbacks. Houston at Chicago. The Bears coming off a win with no offensive scores. What will Caleb Williams look like? On paper, obviously we'll take the Houston Texans. On paper. DJ and PK.
Hashtag BY. Hashtag Utah State.
Well, it's an in-state rivalry, and it's good for the state of Utah, I believe. It doesn't have as high a profile as the rivalry game with the guys down south, but it is certainly a game that captures the attention of the state and is exciting for the state of Utah.
Kyle Whittingham on the Utes going to play the Aggies. Maverick Stadium, kickoff at 2:30. We've been talking about it all week, PK. Do we have more words?
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 Well, I hope so, or else I'd be unemployed.
Woo! All right.
And why won't he ever say BYU?
I don't know.
If somebody asks him, where did you play football? I guess if he's like in Hawaii, Oh, that school across the ocean. You go to Arizona and then you go north. That's crazy, man. Just crazy.
A rare trip for the Utes up to Logan. That game will kick off at 2:30 tomorrow. DJ and PK.
Hashtag BYU.
Well, I mean, it's what we know, but these kids don't know anything about the rivalry. I mean, I guess some of these guys have played in this game against Wyoming, but they don't understand the old conference and all that stuff. Majority of these guys came here because they want to play in the Big 12, and this is just another opportunity for us to go play this game. We know that it's going to be a hostile environment. It wasn't a kind one last week either, but that's college football. We are excited to get out and go play this game in Wyoming and to go play at Laramie.
Kalani pointing out the obvious right there. For a lot of fans, it's something they knew year in and year out. The players don't know about it. And like the Utes going to Logan, it's not something we see often, and we don't know when we'll see it again. But here it is, BYU at Wyoming, with Wyoming really struggling, and BYU with a great chance to get to 3-0.
Well, yeah, that would be cool if they got to 3-0 and join the only team in the country that is 3-0. That would be nice for them.
We'll get to it. Hold on.
I'm sad that last week wasn't a kind environment because in the end, always be humble and kind.
There it is. BYU going to Laramie for the first time since 2009. The Cougar pregame show starts 5 o'clock. It's going to go 5 to 6. With a 7 o'clock kickoff. Alex Curie and Yock on the Cougar pregame show.
Well, what's going to go 6 to 7?
You postgame.
Okay. Well, you can't leave us hanging like that. Now we know.
Ute pregame at 1:30. Cougar pregame at 5. Ute postgame at 6. When does that put the Cougar postgame? Like 10:30?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. All right, this is the story PK wants to get to. Let's do it.
Hashtag college football.
The only 3-0 team in America coming from behind on the road. Not once, twice. Scoring the last 10 points of the game and winning 31-28. Arizona State beats Texas State. Halfway to bowl eligibility. That was the big goal. Now that might be one of those smaller goals they check off on the way to a bigger goal.
I'm not so sure about that. I still think it's 6. You get in the conference, most of the teams on their schedule on paper anyway are better, but you'll take what you can get here. If you can find a way to get 3 conference wins, I think you'd be at least on paper would show progress. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Who knows what's going to go down because there's going to be – I think we know who the teams in the conference that are at the top, and I think they're worthy of being at the top, and I think at the end of the season they'll be at the top. But, you can make some inroads in the middle there. And if you got to the middle after the 3 worst years in 80-year history of the program, you would take it and jump up and down. I texted Ryan Hatch, who is the big shot, the grand poobah of the sports radio in Phoenix. I said, hey, I'll be at the gym at 11. You think we can have some Sun Devils talk rather than endless talk
wall-to-wall Cardinals?
Who the Cardinals are going to lose to? He got way defensive.
I'd have just texted you. No.
Oh, yeah, wow. Well, anytime you can beat Texas State, I'm sure you're just over the moon, blah, blah, blah. He's very condescending. He's a big Ute fan. I said, hey, win 1 Rose Bowl before you pop off, buddy.
Oh, so it got personal. All right.
Oh, yeah. Well, he made it personal. And if someone's going to make it personal, you think I'm going to pass up an opportunity to get personal?
No chance. No chance. Wade into that middle of that river. Let's go.
And to tell you the life of a college football coach, about an hour ago, Kenny Dillingham put out a text, hey, got some great news at the school I'm at or something. I mean, he just went right to the road recruiting, and he's at Central Time, so that would have been 7 a.m. Probably had about 3-4 hours of sleep, and then is back staying in Texas until tomorrow night to doing all this recruiting that you need to do to survive in his business.
I don't know if you heard in the postgame, PK, but he was asked, like, hey, so what's the flight back? And he's like, I don't know. I'm staying in Texas to recruit.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right? You got a Thursday game. You're already there.
And he was at the school at 7, which means unless he was sleeping in the locker room, he was probably up an hour before. So that business for those guys literally never does end.
3-0, and they've got Texas Tech for the conference opener next week, so 4-0 is definitely a possibility.
No, why not 5-0?
Yeah, bring it on. Because
you're not going to do this again. Where I told you, come on, you can't do that.
I'm not.
No,
I didn't do it last time. You made it up.
I did not.
You did too.
That's why you defend yourself.
UNLV and Kansas tonight. Arizona and Kansas State. More Big 12 football. UNLV and Kansas on ESPN at 5. An intriguing game. Kansas coming off that loss to Illinois. UNLV is 2-0 and has been dominant in those 2 wins. They haven't even been tested yet. Dominated Houston and then Utah Tech in their money game. So that's 5 o'clock on ESPN. Intrigued by that. And you've circled Arizona and K-State, 6 o'clock on Big Fox. You've circled that since the schedule was announced.
Yeah, it's a non-conference game. People need to be aware of that, just like Baylor and Utah was a non-conference game. So I think that, it's a non-conference game, but for a non-conference game, it has the most implications of a conference game that you can ever have in the history of college football when you think about it. As we get through these contracts and have these weird setups of teams playing teams in the conference but not having it be a conference game. Obviously, that doesn't happen very often. Occasionally, you'll get that in basketball, but you don't normally get that in football. That's what we'll have. And I do think it has some intrigue. Whether it turns out that it did when we get to the end of November remains to be seen, but right now it does. And so I'm intrigued on both games for sure, yeah.
Full lineup Saturday, the morning games, 10 a.m., which suddenly have much more interest for us over the last year or two here as we see these local teams going to the Big 12. Oklahoma State's at Tulsa on ESPN2 at 10 a.m. So if you want a scouting report there, Utes, because you're playing Oklahoma State the week after, you can watch the Cowboys in Tulsa at 10 a.m. And Alabama at Wisconsin on Big Fox. That's the big game at 10 a.m. So a couple of games right out of the gate. Old school PK, you can watch Oregon State, Big Fox, 1:30. You got an hour of that before the Utes kick off at 2:30 with the Aggies.
Sure. I mean, I can't let it go completely. Now, there's zero reason to root for Oregon, so, I mean, just basically F the Ducks. I look at it.
Let's go OSU.
I got to keep rooting for the Pac-12, right? I mean, that's what it's always been. That's been my DNA since I was 20 years old, and that's just a few years ago. So with that in mind, yeah, way to go, huh?
Oregon State's on Big Fox at 1:30. Washington State is streaming on Peacock at 1:30 as they play their rivalry games early in the year now. The Big 12 action, West Virginia's at Pitt on ESPN2 at 1:30. Texas A&M and Florida. Does the losing coach get run? It seems like the loser of that game set up for a disaster of the season.
Oh, you mean immediately?
Texas A&M and Florida, 1 and 2.
You don't mean it.
No, not immediately, but mid-October maybe. I mean, at 1 and 2, it's trending really poorly for the losing team.
I thought,
these are schools with huge expectations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think there'd be someone fired on the tarmac tomorrow night. I wouldn't think.
Well, there's no way it could be the home team could be fired on the tarmac.
See, that's a good point. Right there in Gainesville, they don't know where to fly. Games in Florida. The third TV window, 5:30, is the Utes and Aggies. So they have a little offset there as that thing wraps up. Colorado State. Been watching that game going back to the Mountain West days. Have to check that out. And the BYU game kicks off at 7. So a full day of football.
Yep.
DJ and PK.
Major League Baseball.
Light schedule on a Thursday. A bunch of teams didn't play. The big game would be the Yankees and Red Sox getting their series going. And Juan Soto walks it off. The clean single to center. Aaron Judge did not homer 16 games in a row. That whole thing's come to a stop. But the Yankees win the game 2-1. They beat the Red Sox.
Wonder how much Juan Soto is going to get. He's a free agent this season. And he's only 25 years old. And he's an absolutely marvelous player. And you'd have to think that 400 maybe? Is that the starting number at the going rate?
It sounds good to me. Yeah.
And
when you look at his numbers statistically, his bad years are very good,
Yeah.
His great years are great. That's the range for this guy. He doesn't play B- baseball. That doesn't happen.
If the Dodgers sign him, then there's just no point.
Well, you got to get the Dodgers and Yankees in to get the bidding to $400 million. There aren't that many teams that can write that kind of check, but both those two can. And as you point out, he's 25 with a lot of productive years in front of him, and he's already awesome.
Yeah. He already is. He's on a clear Hall of Fame trajectory. Right. But if the Dodgers sign him, then they will have signed
everybody,
like 4 MVPs.
Yeah, right.
Jeez. If you sign him and he's batting 8th, that just doesn't seem fair.
Hey, it's cool if you do it in a movie, but you can't do it in real life. The Minnesota Twins released minor league catcher Derek Bender after he told opposing hitters the type of pitches that were coming to the plate during at-bats. It was a game that eliminated his team from playoff contention. He's a 6th-round pick out of Coastal Carolina, playing for Fort Myers in the Twins Single-A affiliate.
They said he wanted the season to get over?
Yes. He wanted the season over. He was hitting about 200, and yeah.
That's just not. It's not good. That's sort of, we can joke about that, and it is minor league ball, but then you start to wonder. Okay, were there any gambling situations involved there?
Gambling situations, mental health issues. I can tell you, your mind can go to a lot of bad places. The Twins let him go. And it, famously that was done in the movie Bull Durham, and it was hilarious in a movie, but it is not hilarious in real life.
Right. We get that,
Yeah.
And that's what the Astros were accused of, and basically admitting doing a few years back. And I can just remember they asked Mike Trout, "Would you like to know?" Or something along the lines, how good would you be if you knew what pitches were coming? And he didn't even respond with an English word. He just said, "Oh," and had a smirk.
I remember that.
Yeah. Which lets you know how
if you get
good
to know
they would
fastball, breaking ball change, a lot better.
Right.
The Bees lose 7-5 to El Paso. Tony Parks will have the pregame tonight at 6:20. First pitch at 6:35 on 1280 The Zone. DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
Well, after 4 games in about 6 weeks, RSL is going to play 3 times in 8 days. 7 games left in the playoff race. RSL in Houston to play the Dynamo tomorrow night. First kick at 6:30. Pregame show at 5:30 on The Zone. And for RSL, this is the team they can't beat and the place they can't win. They haven't won since 2018, winless in their last 7 trips. But they got a bunch of new guys who don't know anything about that, so we'll see what kind of game this looks like with basically 4 new starters from what we've seen in the multiple losses over the last couple of years.
Well, they need to beat that team down southeast.
They do. Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, is going to join us at 8 o'clock. We'll talk with him then. Kevin Graham will be along to whine about football at 9 o'clock. We need to rank what are the 3 things that are going to irritate him most, because that's what he's going to go to.
Well, the Jets lost.
Clearly, that Monday Night Football game, he's going to have to get over that.
And he was at that game, and then I think he was complaining about some type of mass transportation involved there. And he was just looking at his Twitter that they didn't have enough, I don't know, light rail or buses. I'm not sure what type of it is. I know, like if you go to Utah's game, their games up on the 6th floor facing west, overlooking the tracks thing, they've got a bunch of radio control people to do all that stuff. And it seems, I've never done it because I'm working, but it seems like they move a ton of people efficiently. I'm not sure. That's what it looks like for me. And then if he tends to be involved in maybe some skittles, and so anytime you do that and you lose, you ought to be irritated. And just basically with Kevin Graham, the beauty of him, it's pretty much you can count on life in general.
Yeah, exactly. So Kevin will be along at 9 o'clock to talk football. Scotty G, play-by-play voice of the Aggies, will talk with us at 9:30, both about the Utes and the Aggies game tomorrow afternoon in Logan, and then also about Mountain West Conference realignment with 4 teams gone. And it does appear politics is what slowed UNLV down. There's multiple stories about there. People in Nevada thinking UNLV and Nevada should go together. Vegas, obviously, a much bigger city, much bigger media market than Reno, so you get why maybe the league only wanted 1 team, but Nevada politicians wanted 2. It feels like UNLV is going to end up going. We'll talk with Scotty at 9:30 about that. What is trending is brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Coming up next, the question of the day. And then Pablo at 8 right here on The Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
I was listening to Kyle Whittingham talk about Cam Rising. He's like, guys, it's so hard because he's such a competitor. I want to try to really get this point across. You are no longer just a college student. You are now collecting millions of dollars from people that believe in the program, that believe in this team, and believe in you. And the only way that money is worth it is when you are on the field. It is no longer about competitive edge. Cam has to start taking this serious. It's not about what can I do in this moment. You're up 23-0. You know what you can be in this moment? You can be ready for Utah State. You can be ready for conference play the following week because there is no question when he's on the field, that offense is nasty.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ PK proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. It is time now for Hot Takes or Toast, brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen with 30 years of serving Utah. PK.
What?
Games, stress, pressure, upsets. We just heard A-Rod. What's your concern that Wyoming might be a trap game for the Cougars?
Yeah, the one thing I agree with him 100% is whatever Wyoming's got, they're going to give it tomorrow night because even though these kids aren't in the middle of it, they don't play these guys every year, they're not in the same conference, blah, blah, blah. There's enough Wyoming people. I would imagine that nobody thinks, hey, it'd be nice to pick up, relocate, move to Laramie. That the folks who live there, they're from there, and that's home, meaning they've been there, and they've been there many, many years, and their dads and their grandpas and their mothers and so forth. And so they know about it, and then since they know about it, the players will know about it. And even if they didn't know about it, your Mountain West team playing a Big 12 team. We saw it. I watched it last year when Texas Tech went in there, and it was an overtime game, if I remember correctly. So obviously any overtime game is going to have heightened emotion, and a team that wins is going to celebrate. But watching that game is like, okay, Mountain West, Big 12. You're the big guy. We're the little dog. We're not supposed to beat you. And if we beat you, that makes it all the more sweeter, right? Because you've got that team coming into your place. Big 12 teams, Power 4, I guess it would be now. They don't normally go on the road to these so-called lesser places. So just that alone heightens the emotion. Then there'll be enough players from the area who have dads and older brothers and sisters and so forth who have informed them of BYU. And certainly all the fans, or not all, maybe the students, but most of them understand BYU was the big dog for many years in your conferences that you played against them. So, as Aaron Roderick just said, he's trying to prepare for them, and Kalani has been saying it too. Whatever Wyoming's got to give, they'll give it Saturday night. I firmly believe that.
There's no reason to think any other way. These guys have heard about it since the day the game was scheduled. They heard about it when the schedule came out with the game times this year, and I can't imagine that they can go anywhere in Laramie to get a sandwich or anything without hearing about it. This is the game.
I would say hunting huge. Rather than a sandwich.
Okay. Come over the hills, see some other hunters. You guys are big. You football players? Beat BYU.
Ready break. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's going to be it's a great test for BYU.
So, of course, there's that possibility, ton of emotion. Wyoming's 0-2, BYU's 2-0. Everyone's all fired up. Travis, all he posts is the crowd. They're going to come out on the field, and those people are going to be amped. The energy is just going to be flowing.
Yeah, this is a first-year coach, and they won 9 ball games last year. And, every team is different every year, but there's a lot of guys who were on that team last year. and thinking, hey, we got a pretty good program going on here. And, you win 9 games. That's a pretty good season. I've said that 1,000 times over. And nobody wants to start 0-3. I don't know what you would do. There's probably been many teams who've started 0-3, meaning that they lose all their non-conference games if they play 9 conference games. And I wonder what their records in conference were. It would seem to me that it wouldn't be pretty good. And with that in mind, it's not like you'd rather have a team that's 0-2 versus 2-0, but if there's ever a desperate wounded animal in a land where animals matter more in Wyoming, this is it, man. You literally can't be any more desperate. You got blown out and then you got embarrassed. What more worse scenario could you have?
I guess if one of the 2 games were a rivalry game, that'd be the only thing I could put on it. There aren't that many rivalry games early in the year. Utah and BYU have played early in the year, and we just mentioned the Oregon and Washington schools. But that's the only thing I can think, is it just completely humiliated, and then, man, you come home and you lose your money game. So it's a bad combo out of the gate.
Yeah.
And the only thing that would fix it, beating BYU.
Yeah, you wonder if those old-time Wyoming fans would say, you can go 1-2, but you beat BYU. Do you take it? I mean, some of them would say yes. Now, they would never assume that you would lose to Idaho, but nevertheless, That's what happened. And so now you have this opportunity to right all the wrongs when everybody and their dog is down on you. I mean, I don't care who you are. When you got beat by 41 points, you were never in the game in your opener, and you could spin that as an opener. Okay, things you have opportunity to get better, except you didn't the second week. So with that in mind, man, BYU's got to be on the top of their game. They got to match this team's intensity. I believe that 100%. And they got to play better, man. They were fortunate that after they committed turnovers, the defense got turnovers. How many times is that? We heard everybody. We had Kelly Papinga on this week. When do you see multiple turnovers back-to-back, like inside the 15-yard line? That's very rare.
Not 3 of them.
Yeah.
3 of them, that was absolutely crazy. It would be rare to see it at midfield or all over the field, going up and down the field, but to see 3 in quick succession like that, all in the red zone, and those are huge emotional turns, and you're not going to replicate that.
Wouldn't think so. So, I mean, you won the ball game, and every time you win a close game, you can point to various plays and feel fortunate, lucky, whatever you want to say. That never changes. Never changes. The 2 turnovers last night by Texas State really hurt them. The one fumble basically gave the Devils the winning points, and it happened. And good for one team, bad for the other. But to think that, okay, we're going to go down into somebody else's stadium and it's going to be a tie game, and then we're going to get a turnover and get a gift-wrapped field goal to win the game. Who plans that? If that's in your game plan, good for you. But I don't think you want to play hard defense and try to swipe the ball and all that stuff. Yeah, I understand that. But just because the ball's on the ground doesn't mean your guy is going to get it. It can be recovered by the offense. So the point I'm making is there was a lot of good fortune that broke BYU's way in that game. Not to say that they got lucky. They took advantage of it and all that stuff. But to think that that's what you're going to need, that's scary because you can hardly predict that you're going to get that. Now, fortunately for the Cougars against SMU, they got it. And maybe they won't need it. Maybe they'll just dominate. And they're a team that's trying to establish themselves, too, before they go into conference play. And they've got one of the more difficult schedules in the conference, right? There's no doubt about that. You can look it up. And it may have fluctuated a little bit from the summer, but the premise of a difficult schedule is still there. So this is an important game for them to help achieve their goal of getting into the postseason.
What is less likely to happen? A team starting 0-3 and then getting bowl eligible, which is what Wyoming is facing if they lose this game, or 3 turnovers and 5 plays in the red zone, which is what we saw with BYU and SMU. Those are a couple of rarities right there.
Yeah, I'd probably go starting 0-3 and then going 6-3 in conference if you play 9 games in conference. Some conferences only play 8, but it seems to me that the turnover things are somewhat fluky. Now, I know what BYU fans are saying. Like Collins said, he was coached on that very play that he got the turnover. Great.
Right. That's one. But two of the next 4 plays are going to be turnovers also. I mean, you can explain any one thing. That sequence was freakish.
Yeah, and good for him that they had the coaching and he followed the coaching and it worked the way. I mean, I think there's a lot of study and preparation and all that stuff that go into it. Not every turnover is just 100% fluke. Some of them are caused by coaching and preparation and film work and all those types of things. So, yes, I understand all that, and that's true. So that's why I say good fortune rather than luck, because luck means something outside of the universe that you just can't control. I'm not sure that that's the case. And I know you and Urban Meyer got into that years ago about that. And I'm on Urban's side. I agree that a lot of it is preparation and work and study and yada, yada, rather than just dumb luck. So Cougars have got to come out and they've got to establish themselves, particularly with the ground game. Their top 2 runners are not going to be there. They're able to play, as they've told us. And so this is an opportunity for the young freshman, for Davis, who's Enoch Nawahini. Is that how you say it, Yak? For him to get for him to get another opportunity. He had a nice run. If I'm those guys, man, I'm salivating. This is my chance. This is my opportunity to show that I belong in the rotation and to do these things. Davis has been in the program for a little bit now. So he had the big run. Well, let's build on it. So there should be a lot of motivation, a lot of intensity into this game. I like it in that it's an old foe. I like it these non-conference games, an old foe. We saw that they're scheduling Stanford next year, an old Pac-12. Team, obviously. You can't really call it a rival, but they've played each other a few times over the years. So, I mean, that's what the loss to Stanford back in 03 or 04 led to the I want to win by 9, not by 2 comment. I believe that was the Stanford game. That young John Beck, he might even have been a freshman, so maybe it was 02 or something. I'm not sure. He threw that interception when Stanford was not doing anything offensively. I think they literally set a low historically in the program with like 25 yards of passing, if my memory serves, and they won the ball game because somebody decided that BYU needed to throw the ball rather than run the ball.
What?
Yeah. So you got a little bit of history there. These are the types of games I think that get kids a little more fired up. Certainly Wyoming's going to be fired up. And BYU, you better be able to match it. And I have no reason to think that they won't. There's enough kids that are from here, growing up, family members, they remember Wyoming. And, the stories to Laramie, I think they're a lot of them are fables. They just grow in out of proportion.
So put your helmet on before you leave the locker room, which I can't even tell you how many times I've heard Utah and BYU players and coaches say that's the rule. The old guys tell the young guys, the coaches tell the players. And I know that Kalani and A-Rod have brought it up with the players now. It's part of getting them, hey, this is serious. You've got to put your helmet on when you leave for warm-ups. Because they throw stuff. And I'm sure somebody threw something at some point. I have a hard time believing that it's just constantly raining, garbage out of the sky and they're throwing popcorn. But urine bags and popcorn boxes and coins and whatever else they can find. I mean, I'm sure somebody threw something at some point. But
I've seen the medical people are there with the fans with the little urine specimen jars that they hand out when you check in. And when you show them your ticket, they give you a specimen jar, and then you go in. They have porta potties right there so you can fill them up and toss them at the opposing players, especially BYU. I mean, come on. I saw something come out of the stands last week, and I thought, I better get out of here because I was standing. They had the players, and then they have the benches. I was standing right behind the bench.
You're in the target zone. If someone doesn't have enough of an arm, you're getting hit.
Right. And I saw something out of my left eye come flying. And then down on the bottom, right where the first row would be, there was tons of litter and debris and beer cans and all that stuff, as if the people in the stands just dropped them there. Or, I don't know, maybe the Cougars were having a hit a hooch on the sidelines. I'm not sure. But, yeah, stuff happens that way. And it shouldn't happen, but it does. But I don't think, like, it's thousands of them just raining missile bottles. But that's part of the fun with Laramie. And the Laramie people, I kind of sound like a politician, the American people, they sort of revel in that. And most of them, and a very small majority, or minority, I should say, actually participate in any of that. But they know this is not the garden spot where everybody puts on their bucket list, yeah, I gotta spend a week on vacation in Laramie. They get that. They understand that. And you got to be a little bit different to live there. And you got to be a little tougher to live there, from my experiences. I've probably been there 25 times, I bet, when you count football and basketball. And that they understand that. Coming to Laramie, nobody wants to come to Laramie. And you used to get the basketball schedule. Every team would circle, okay, when do I go to Laramie? And most of the time, for the media and all, they stay in Fort Collins. They don't even stay in Laramie.
Hey, 5 nights in Fort Collins. Look at the Marriott points pile up. I'll just drive up for the game.
Yeah,
and that was the plan.
I'm one of them.
Yeah,
and I used to do that. In fact, I just had a sports information guy from BYU. We were trading text messages just a couple days ago about the good old days back then. And so, yeah, that's part of it. And the Wyoming people, they know all about that. And I think they have fun with it, actually. I think from an intensity standpoint, it's a good thing to experience because you've got that and you'll see it. And I really respect the folks who live in Wyoming because it's not easy. And the weather's harsh and all that stuff. But I think, by and large, they're a group of great people.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming back, it's the Utes, it's the Aggies. We've got a lot of people weighing in on what will happen in that game and who's going to win these games. We've got poll questions up on Twitter, David DJ James. We'll get to all that and Pablo Mastroni at the top of the hour right here on The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
I don't like that we're going to see Isaac Wilson for Utah. Not because I don't believe in Isaac Wilson. It's because I just feel like Utah needs to get that offense rolling with Cam before they go into Stillwater.
If you're going to have a special season,
you're right.
You got to get everything going.
If we're going to see Isaac Wilson play multiple games, then all of a sudden I got to shift my mind into a different gear. We're not talking about playoffs anymore. We're talking about the future and we're talking about development. Everything changes depending on who the quarterback is for Utah. If Cam's in the game, then we're talking about the playoffs. If he's not, we're not talking about the playoffs. That was evident on Saturday. That was very clear. The second Cam went out, Utah's team fell out of the top 25. I'm dead serious. That was not a top 25 team on Saturday once he went out.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
The band of the day today is Thrice, as guitarist Tepe Taranashi celebrates his 44th birthday, and it's brought to you by Live Nation. For all of the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com. Utah and Utah State, they call this rivalry the Battle of the Brothers. Utah's going to Logan for the first time since an overtime loss in 2012, and PK, Cam Rising is reportedly unlikely to play against Utah State. Who knew? How much will this impact Utah's chances of winning?
Well, I had no idea that Rising wouldn't play, maybe. So that's a stunner to me. I need to buckle down and do some better journalism. But, yeah, it's our guy Isaac. I'm excited to see what he can do.
92% of the people voting, we're about 100 votes in, 92% of the people voting expect the Utes to win. 53% think they will cover the 18-point spread. So that would be Utes in a blowout.
Well, I mean, it could be a late touchdown. So I don't know.
Well, that's what we saw. That's what we saw last week, right? They covered the spread in the first quarter, and they stretched the lead to 23-0. And then it tightened up a little late, but they were never going to lose the game. 23-12 final. Didn't cover.
I think they could reel it in if they need to. But I wouldn't go with the second half approach in the first half. So the second half of last week when Kyle admitted they reined it in and just tried to get the win. I mean, you recruited a kid. He'd been on campus since January, and he hasn't played big-time meaningful snaps and all that stuff. I understand all that. But, he's still he won the job, so that's something that's encouraging. So maybe you don't go all out, but you let him do his thing, and then if it comes down to it, late in the game and you're protecting a one score or a score and a half, and by that I mean, a touchdown and a field goal, that you then can be a little more prudent in play calling. But I would hate to see them just dumb it down completely right from the start. To me, that you're not giving that kid confidence. And I brought up the Travis Wilson thing, and he had to deal with that a lot during his time. And where did it get them? Didn't get them where they wanted to go, that's for sure. So, go with the playbook, see what you got, see the flow of the game and how it goes. And I mean, let's face it, man, you're a team that thinks you can compete for the national title, right? They think that. And fine, think that. I've got no problem with that. And I realize you thought that with Cam Rising. But you can't be shocked that he's not going to play all 12 games or whatever it is. You just can't be. So you've got to be prepared for this. And with that in mind, you're playing a team that was picked towards the bottom of the Mountain West. Your backup quarterback should be able to beat them. Bryson Barnes did in these types of situations, and he was a walk-on who played 1A football. This kid played 6A football, and his predecessors, some of them are in the NFL, and others are flirting for Heismans. So there's a track record there. So I approach it from a position of strength, not timidness.
I think most of the fans are with you. It looks like even most of the Aggies, judging by the expectations. They'll put them in, and it'll work out. And Utah to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and the team that wins the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball usually wins the game, as long as they don't turn it over.
Well, you can have turnovers. I mean, you act like if they committed a turnover, it's a death sentence.
No, one turnover doesn't usually get you beat. It's usually when you get up around 3 that you start to find yourself in real trouble.
Well, then go get 5.
Well, that's basically what happened in the BYU-SMU game, right? Both teams had 3 turnovers and ended up canceling each other out and ended up being a close game. That is the way to offset them. Go get them yourself. Give it away, take it back.
Just don't give it away, give it away, give it away
Away
now.
now.
So let's go. Let's see what he has. You're going to need him. And how about this? How about we look that this kid comes in here and he's running around, throwing it, running it, doing his thing, and it's offensive guys throughout the South and West Texas and in the West and in Utah. Yeah, I want to be a part of that. That kid's got 3 more years to go. Look at it that way. This is a time to show off what you got and expedite your recruiting of skilled players. Transfers all over the place flock to Salt Lake City. And they jump on the Wilson wagon there, run with it.
Ooh, the Wilson wagon. Nice alliteration.
Right. Who's on board the Wilson wagon?
What is Andy Ludwig dialing up to help Wilson get the ball to the playmakers who are going to make him look good?
You're going to do wheel routes. You're going to do skinny posts. You're going to do digs. Yeah. Let me turn the page here on football for 101 so I can come up with some more language for the football players in football. Let's see. Just a straight post. Did I miss any? Come on, Yak. You're a football guy. What do you got?
Yak, you literally put your hand in the mud at Mountain View High.
I did.
Yeah, but he was in the huddle, so he knows about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jet sweeps.
9 routes.
9 routes, yeah.
Bubble screens.
I got my passing tree right in front of me.
Nice.
Just diagramming plays right now.
DJ DJ and PK, when we come back, Pablo Mastroni, RSL head coach, joins us next. Kevin Graham at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, and Scotty G talking Utes and Aggies at 9:30 right here on The Zone.